Hey everyone, Zarakil here, and today I'm going to give you a rundown on how to create foliage in 3ds Max and Unreal in about under 10 minutes. So no fluff, just the facts that you can take right into editing. So first of all, the vast majority of foliage is really just planes created. So make sure you just make one in your 3D modeling software and go ahead and unwrap it as shown. Once you're done with that, make sure the checker pattern fits and render out the UV template to whatever size you're making your textures at. Okay, so looking at the Photoshop or photo editing software, I like to multiply and invert my UVW that I've rendered out to help you see the underlying textures. So here I have a foliage image as well as an alpha mask already made. Go ahead and control and click your alpha once you've created it to make the selection, and in your channels, click on the shoot alpha button to go ahead and create one in your photo editing software. I'll go ahead and hide that alpha select and make sure you pick a dark background for your foliage. That way you'll cut out the image better. Now go ahead and save it when you're ready. And I like to use Targas. That's just my preference. If you're saving in Targas, make sure you save in 32-bit as I did there. Otherwise, your image is not going to be cut out of the background. So go into your 3D modeling program, open up your foliage file, and import it into your diffuse channel slot. Got my foliage example here. And I'm going to go ahead and click and drag that into my opacity slot and make an instance of it so that whatever happens to the diffuse will also happen to the alpha or to the opacity. I'm going to go down to my monochannel output and change it to alpha. And then go ahead and preview that in my viewport there by clicking that button. And you'll see it cuts out the background now. So there the image is, just the foliage branch. Pretty plain though right now. The one thing you can do is make connections in your mesh in order to help vary up the the look of your foliage. So here I'm just going to add a bend modifier, sort of change the way that it bends, and just what that's going to do is essentially make the image look less 2D. Okay, so I'll make a plane changing one direction, and then I'm going to make another plane on another axis in order to bend it in a different direction. I'll collapse that together now. So now we have a plane that has a little bit more variety in it, and I'm going to just change the pivot point around to the center of the stems here. You want to make sure that before you rotate and duplicate these, you have your pivot point correct. It'll be a lot more difficult if your pivot is off. So here I'm just going to make some copies and duplicate and rotate them. Now right now the mesh looks a little bit odd. We need to make sure that the direct center of the image of all these guys are coinciding with each other. So see here, I'll rotate them a little bit and adjust them individually so that they fit better together towards the center. So you want to make it look like the stems of this plant or the trunk of the tree if you're working on that. All ends up coinciding in the very center. Alright, once you're satisfied, go ahead and attach everything together as one. And oftentimes your bounding volume will be messed up once you attach everything. What I like to do is just make a basic box, attach it to your foliage, and then go ahead and delete the box that we used, and you'll see that we have a nice square bounding volume again now. Go ahead and name this foliage example. And I want to go ahead and fix that pivot point one more time. I'm going to drag it down to about the base of the stems of the plants here. Go right in the center, a little bit over here. And then make sure that you center it to your grid space once you're done adjusting the pivot point. And once you're satisfied and you're ready to bring it into your Unreal Engine, go ahead and click the Export Selected button. And you can either export generally as an FBX or an OBJ. Those are the safest file formats to export out as. I'm going to go ahead and export this as an FBX foliage example. And go ahead and bring up your Unreal Engine here and click on the highlighter orange impact import button. I'll just go ahead and find my file here. Now FBXs will also save your material as well that you had from 3ds Max. So if you want that in there, you see the import materials and import textures is checked off. That will bring them in automatically. But also here you can determine whether you want to generate light maps or generate collision depending on what your preference is. So here you'll see it comes in with my texture as well and my material already created. But the black background isn't cut out yet. If it didn't bring this in already, go ahead and bring in your targa this way. You would hit yes. It's not going to replace it because I already have it being used right now. But otherwise you would bring it in like that. And you can always right click, create material to bring up a material. You'll see here it already has my, my texture sample created. But if it didn't, you could just go ahead and select your image here. And then you would hold T or find a texture sample and create it in your material. All right, so here I have material. Make sure that you make the blend mode masked. Gonna make sure to cut out the background of it. And also change our shading material to two-sided foliage, very important. And then go ahead and grab your alpha and connect it to the opacity mask input. That's going to cut out the background for you in Unreal, just like it did for 3ds Max in the opacity channel. Also make sure to go in and check off two-sided. This way, whatever direction you're looking at the image from, you'll be able to see the detail on the diffuse map. And also one important thing, you want to make sure that you attach your RGB channel to your subsurface color. This is very important because if you don't do this, you're going to get a completely white or black image on your foliage instead of the color from the actual mesh. It took me forever to figure this out, very important. And there you have it. That's pretty much all it takes to create foliage in Unreal and Max. If you want to make normals for them, or also you want to work on roughness for leaves in case there's some areas that are shiny and some areas that aren't, those are also things you can do as well. But this is just the basic setup for making foliage look the way it should in the Unreal Engine and Max. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Really appreciate that. Feel free to follow me on Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, or to follow my live stream at twitch.tv/ZerakioGames. I'll go ahead and post all those for you guys there, and hope to see you guys later.